I am going to get myself situated here and just type out some notices to folks on the Discord so that they know that the stream is live. Let me just check. So, here we go. So yeah, I had something of a busy morning, and I'm working on some commissions and stuff like that, so I had to delay my stream today, but we're getting to it. I don't want to leave a day, or let a day go by, excuse me, without giving you guys something. So, now streaming. I'll continue my drawing with the juvenile. Oh, there we go. Juvenile Canis Rabbit. On Twitch. Okay, a couple more of these here in the right places. Got a lot of communities to cover. What? Okay. I think that's everything. Oh, hi there, mystery viewer. Welcome to the stream. We're about to get started. I'm just making sure all of my social media knows that I'm streaming, because that sort of thing is important. And then we'll get going. Today we're going to continue, as you can see, the drawing of the Canis Rabbit, the juvenile Canis Rabbit. It was going to be a baby Canis Rabbit, but I saw the picture that they had of the baby Canis Rabbit, and now I realize that they are tiny little bunny critters about this big. So you know, and I was basing my anatomy off of a puppy with a rabbit's head, and so we're gonna go with juvenile rather than baby animals like the other animals, which is fine, because I'm also probably gonna do an older flower cup porcupine. Baby porcupines don't look like much. I could probably, you know, I mean, I could probably cutify it a little bit, but okay. So just move the camera over there. So mostly today we're gonna work on painting. And if I'm feeling inspired, I might come up with a background for this. But who knows? Oh, I don't have any music today. I don't suppose I need music. We'll take a break from music. You just hear me mutter to myself. Lots of times when I'm working on a big project, I'll put an audiobook on. But yeah, the audiobooks don't much like it if you stream their content. Okay, so I want to start with flats as usual. So this is my shadow, ground shadow. So we'll do a new raster layer underneath all of the ink layers, and so that I have a good reference for flats. Flats is easier to notice than layer 6. Oh, I've got my timeline here. I was working on an animation earlier, so don't need that extra screen space being eaten up. So then I'm going to use, instead of a selection area, I'm going to use my fill-in mono pen. And it is set to do not exceed the line of reference layer. And oh, I've already set a reference layer here as my inks, so I don't have to do that. So now I can just grab a color that I like for the skin layer, because basically this is going to be the color that of the Canis Rabbit skin, and we'll be painting fur on top of it. So I want it to be a dark color, and then the fur on top is a sandy color with light stripes. So let's start with this dark brown and see how that looks. Yeah, I think that'll work. And yeah, because I have it set up not to exceed the reference layer, you can see I'm not spilling over outside of the figure. It's a really quick way to get your flats down. So long as your lines are complete. If there are gaps in your lines, it won't work. And also, if there's a lot of internal line work, like these stripes are good because they all have gaps in them. But if they didn't, oh, and I'm actually, well, if they didn't, then I'd have to make sure to place, like you can see, I can't get in between those hair fibers because those lines are closed. So I have to actually put the brush inside that area, the tip of the brush, the center of the brush, in order for it to work. So I'll disable that and, take care of the sloppy messes that it leaves behind. But in general, for filling in the body, it's probably the quickest way to do it if your line work is compatible for it. I tend to probably use too many lines because for a long while, I was drawing my pictures with the intent of them serving as black and white standalone images. So you have to do a lot more work than for something that's intended to be painted, because then you have to imply the shape and the form of things with extra lines and texture. Oh, there's a beautiful rainbow outside my window. Well, that's nice. Sorry. Distracted by the magnificent mountain view in front of me. It's nice living in a rainforest, if you don't mind the rain. Alright, so we got a lot of gaps in here. I have the pen set to scale 4 pixels outside of any area that it draws, so that way it'll get inside the lines by a little bit, so there won't be too much white pixel overlap. But like this is way more than 4 pixels thick of a line, so it wouldn't penetrate through that enough. So we're just gonna turn off the setting that keeps it restricted by lines, so that I can color in between all these lines and not leave any dead white pixels. That is the one major drawback to this method, is that there is a higher instance of dead empty pixels floating around in the middle of your drawing that you have to clean up. So there's a lot of trade-offs, and over the past week I think I've shown you all of the general methods that I know of to isolate areas of the drawing for flats, at least in Clip Studio. There are some fun things you can do in Photoshop that give you even more options. But it really depends. You have to kind of establish your own workflow and just stick to it. I've had to explore a lot of different workflows in order to find ones that work for me. And I found that it really depends on just what I'm feeling like, because selection areas can be very efficient, but sometimes, depending on the figure, a pain to work with. So I like having a lot of tools in my kit, and this feels more natural. Coloring it in with my hand, you know, it's like a coloring book. It feels a lot more intuitive, but once again, it leaves you open to tiny little dead pixels, which you have to zoom in quite close to see and spend time cleaning up. Oops. And it looks like I got some dead space in my ground shadow. So while I'm down here looking at this level, I'm going to go ahead and fix that up. So I'll switch up to my ground layer and pull out a black. And just patch those little bits there. Alright, so now that I have, oops, almost the entire figure filled in, now it's time to break out the next largest selection area. Which looks like it might be, well, let's grab the ears here. For this part, I will switch to the lasso tool. Because I got this incomplete line here. It's just going to be easier to work with that from this route. And usually I like to pick flats that match the colors that I intend to paint over it in some way. Let's look at my reference here and make sure that I'm picking a color that's appropriate. Although it's not really necessary, because once you, if you're using your flats correctly, then you can use that basic area to color anything just by reselecting it. So let me see here. So, for your benefit, here is the Chronicles of Elyria wiki page for Canis Rabbit. And it looks like they do have the somewhat pink ears. I think I need it. Getting ahead of myself. So let's bring it more towards that. Yeah, I like that color. And we'll just pick up the background color. Whoops. Switch to my pen here. And clean up this little bit here. Do another quick selection of the eye. And well, that reveals a little bit of a dead pixel in the ink that we'll have to correct. And then we'll grab the teeth. What just happened? Oh, I'm on the wrong layer. And the tongue, we'll make it similar to the ear color, but a little more red. A little brighter. Alright, so now I think the next thing to do will be to isolate the hair and the stripes and the underbody color. And then once I have those all worked out, I'll be ready to actually start painting this. So let me just do some quick that might look good. I don't have to be terribly precise with where these stripes are lining up, or even the lines on the body. I'll probably erase those or change their color. Talking about the inks there for these stripes. I just kind of hastily hashed these in as place markers that I'm probably going to delete once I get the paint on there. So really all I need is to make sure that my flats here form a selection area that I can paint into, and I'll probably add some anti-aliasing to that selection area to fuzz up the edge of it so that when I actually go in and paint, it won't be that strictly hard line. And I'll also, I can go back and forth in the paints, alternating light and dark colors to get some good blending. Hopefully, I can use this as an opportunity to improve upon some of the techniques I tried to implement in the Ursifant drawing. If you watched that stream, I was experimenting with trying to use the airbrush to give the hint of fur. And, it was mixed success. As with any new technique, it takes time and repetition and, varying circumstances to really get the most out of it. Just one of those things, you're never really done learning how to art. There's always going to be something new to try. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to hop into chat. Otherwise, I'm just sitting here talking to myself, and, that's okay. I can do that forever, but I'm happy to engage. And, I don't mind explaining what I'm doing either, so if you do have questions or just interested in what I'm doing at any given moment, go ahead and hit me up. Oh, I gotta pull up my model again here. Look at some of those facial markings. So, white around the eyes. Okay. Oh yeah, and then we gotta isolate the hair color. So let's do a slightly darker version of the stripe color. And shift that a little towards orange. See how that looks. Yeah. I think I might use this color, or a slightly darker version of this color for the fur when we get to painting. Oh, you know what? I think that's actually part of the ear. Okay, so I think that's everything. All the major parts of the body are separated by their individual colors. So now, oops, let's go down here and just clean out those nostrils. Huh. Okay, so now I have, oh, you know, I should get this ball too. Always too soon. What color should the ball be? Oh, lots of orange and brown. So let's do a blue ball. So yeah, now I can set my auto select tool to selection for referred layers, make sure that it's multiple referring and set to the reference layer, and make sure that nothing in the non-reference layer is checked. So that way when I use the auto select tool, no matter what layer I'm on, so like say I'm on my layer that I intend for painting, paint, I can still, you know, whoops, Also follow adjacent pixel. I can still... What's going on here? Oh, because my reference layer is still the ink layer. So now I have to set my flats as the reference layer, and on my paint layer I can go doop, 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 and select any one of these stripes. And then, oh, and that actually helps me see some missing pixels here. Oh, such a tiny little dead area. Oops. Whoa. Not what I wanted to do. There we go. But yeah, so now I have selection areas that cover all of the major parts of the body. I can begin to paint. So, what I'm gonna do before that though is, because I do need to make sure I hunt down any pixels that are not conforming. So I'm going to take a brief minute here to just zoom in really nice and tight, and we'll help the process by putting an annoying color on the paper so we can see. Let's do a nice bright red. And then we'll just zoom in. Oh man, that hurts. And look for red among the brown here. I don't see any poking through. So far, so good. All right. All right, so I think we're good. Oh, there's a little bit of bleed outward. Let's change that paper back to a 50% gray quick. Ah, much better. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I need to decide where my light source is, right? So probably the easiest answer would be to put it this way. So you have to kind of conceive of light in a 3D space, right? So if I've got, like, this is the representation of my location in 3D space. So this path of orbit here bisects the arrow of light this way. So in 3D space, my light is in front of and to the left of the subject, which is going to cast, well, see, and my drop shadow already doesn't like that. So maybe I should put the sun directly overhead to make it a little easier. So if that's the case, I don't feel like changing my drop shadow, then let's do it like that. A little more further downward pointed. All right, so I know this probably doesn't read visually to you, but I understand it, so we'll go with that. So I understand where the light source is now. I'm going to apply a gradient to the main figure. So I'll use my selection area here. And I'll also include the stripes. But yeah, the ears and everything else is going to act differently. So, do you want the hair too? No, I don't. So now, oh, shit. There we go. So then I want to apply a gradient. And foreground to transparent is the setting I want to use. And my foreground color is going to be actually the shadow that I'm trying to cast. No? No, it should be the light I'm trying to cast. So I want it to be related to this color on screen as the darkest color, but brighter and more saturated. So then when I draw my gradient, it's going to follow the path that I'm imagining for that light. Where is it here? There we go. So, oops. So I need to draw the line through to where I want the darkest point in the, well, the most transparent point, which should be right under here under the body. I may need to try this a couple of different ways to get it to work the way I want it to. Oh, let's turn off my selection so it's easier to see. So I think in general that that gives me what I'm looking for. That puts slightly darker tones underneath the body, brighter tones above the body. And I don't think I need to fiddle with the opacity too much. So great. So this is just kind of, like I said, a simple baseline. I still have to go in here and figure out what parts of the body are facing the light and require more bright light from my highlight color. So this is where I'll come in and I'll take my airbrush And I'm keeping my selection layer as just the skin, so that way, oh, nope. So that way I'm not futzing with the stripes or anything like that as I go in here and highlight places. So then with my airbrush set to soft, I'll keep a nice big brush size here. I don't need to increase the hardness, I don't think. Brush density, we'll start with reasonably dense at 50 and see if that works. So then, I just need to come in and hit the top of this leg and the back here. All these areas that would be catching the most light. Just light, quick strokes. The airbrush does like it puts on a lot of, or a little bit of paint at a time according to how much density we've got, but the harder you press into it, the more immediately it goes to that maximum color. And that simulates you actually bringing your airbrush closer to the objective. So I don't want to hit it very hard because I want to control how much I want it to be subtle. So then, as we covered when we did the inks, there's a really weird shoulder configuration going on with these guys. So I need to pick out the tops of those shoulders, and I might need to scale this back with a transparent color a little bit, just because I don't want to lose that shadow there, but I do need to hint at the crease here, where the skin is folding down on top of these rabbity shadows on the dog-like body. Also, I need to make sure to pick out this skull ridge here because another thing we discovered as we were picking apart the anatomy from the concept art is that the forward-facing eyes are kind of a weird sort of thing for both the dog and the rabbit to have. So it's like a rabbit's head, but it has the forward-facing predator eyes. So that's a tricky thing that I'm still not entirely sold as far as how I chose to represent that. And I might go back and revisit it. Maybe it's too late because I'm already painting, but we'll see. We'll just get a little bit of highlight here on the back of the figure. That should still get some light. Same with the back of the leg here. All right. So now that I've got that worked out, I'm going to go ahead and, excuse me just a second here, I need to apply similar treatment to the feet. And the feet are actually pretty lightly colored, so I'll do another layer, and this layer will be a darker airbrush to add shadows to those feet, because they didn't really get the same bit of gradient that the other ones got. So we'll select those individually. maybe. What's going on? Oh, let's... There we go. And then I'll hide that selection so it's not quite so visible. I'm also going to blur the border of the selection. And we'll go ahead and blur it. We'll try 2 pixels and see how that looks. And my goal here, of course, is to make those lines not quite so hard-edged as they are in the flats, but still generally conform to the area reserved by the inks. And then I'll pick up my airbrush again, and let's grab that color. And we're looking for a darker version of this, and not just darker, because once again, shadows need to be cooler than the base color. So we'll move a little bit to the desaturated as we move dark. And we'll also that's too cool. I don't want it to be so cool that it's green. Although green does have some exciting interactions with orange, depending on their relative tones. So by contrast, yellow is cooler than red, so we'll go with a slightly yellow to go with this cream. And I'm just going to bring the brightness up a little bit. Even though it's a shadow, it only needs to be darker than the color that it's lying over. So we'll see how this looks here. I think I'm going to increase the intensity, or the brush density, so that this comes across a little more readily. Leave the tops of the toes alone, but the back of this foot probably should go as well as the underbelly. So here I'm mostly reinforcing the shadows that already exist from the other painting, where it intersects with the stripes, so that the treatment is respected throughout. I actually might need to get in here too and add a little bit of coolness to the flats below, and that's easy to do actually, because I can duplicate this layer. Don't want it to be a reference layer though. And then when I select the skin, I can fill it with a cooler color. So let's just grab this brown here. And I want to cool it off. Not too much. So that kind of leaves it looking a little greenish. Let's back it up a little bit more. No. Definitely not. That's interesting. You know what? Maybe it's maybe it's all right. What I will do is warm this up a bit again here. Oh, wrong selection. I think that actually helps. It's a little better. It's not much of a change, and maybe you don't even notice it on your end. But it feels a lot better for me. Okay, so now I do want to fuzz out these stripes a little bit, so we're gonna reselect them. This time I'm going to blur the border even further. We're gonna do a full-on 15-ish pixels. That. I don't know if that's actually adding anything there. So we'll try a different approach. I'm going to take a G pen, throw a new raster layer up here, clip it downward, and anti-aliasing on my G pen is high. Expand my selection area by a good 5 pixels. And I'm just going to rough up this edge with pen strokes. I think I'm also going to get rid of these ink marks that I made, like I promised earlier. So let's do that real quick just because I want to be able to see what I'm doing here. And it'll be quick. I can just, it's all vector lines, so I can just erase part of the line and it'll all go. I think there's something going on here, and I'm not sure what it is. Some kind of interaction here is not working out the way I want it to. Alright, let me figure this out here. We want to expand the selection by 5 pixels. That's too much. Let's back off to 2 pixels. That's better. And then I'm going to blur that. I think 16 pixels is still good. I'll fill it with my current color. Oops, not on this layer though. Then I should get more satisfactory results. What is that there, though? I got like some kind of blue. What layer is that on? Oh dang, is that a gap in my flats? It sure is. probably should have erased the lines on the stripes before I moved out of flats, because from the looks of things there are some areas underneath the lines that just didn't get colored. So because everything is clipped to my flats layer, if there's a pixel that's dead on the flats layer, it's going to be dead everywhere. So okay, so with this little bit of layer maintenance done and lessons learned, let's turn those other layers back on. And now I want to get in there. So I want to achieve that same effect that I was getting over here with this moving to transparent strokes, fuzzing out the edge of that, because I think that looks good. And if we look at it at print size, it doesn't even register. So we want to magnify that if we're going to keep it. You know, actually, let's think about how fur travels. So actually the fur is going to be going backwards across the body, right? So maybe what I need is not this. Let me think what tools I have available to help me out with this problem. All right. I'm a little stumped, so I'm going to go through and just do some other things while I think about that in the back of my mind. I don't have a lot of time left today, unfortunately, and I started it late, so I feel bad about that. But them's the breaks. I think the direction we're headed now is better than we were before, so that's a net positive in my book. Ow. Oh, shit. I just banged my knee on the underside of my desk drawer. Oh. Oh, that's not fun. Alright, it's 12 o'clock, so I'm out of time for today. And we didn't get as far as I had hoped. Oh man, what's going on here? I'm gonna fix that real quick. So we didn't get as far as I hoped, but, we played with some things. We tried some new techniques. We learned some things that didn't work very well. And so next time what I'll do is I'll basically go in here and we'll recolor the line work. We'll figure out some kind of texturing for the stripes and the fur in general. And we'll play with the hair because that needs some work as well. And the face, I think we need to refine some of the shadows in the face and play with the shape of this skull and the lines that I'm detailing that skull. And we'll have to come up with a creative playground for our puppy to romp around in the background. So for now, that's what we've got. I hope you enjoyed watching the stream. If you did enjoy watching the stream, come back and see me tomorrow. I'm going to be here every day of the month through the end of February and into the beginning of March. I'm doing an art sprint for this month, so that includes daily streaming. So come watch me draw. I'm going to be drawing a lot of stuff. Most of it is going to be Chronicles of Elyria based. Chronicles of Elyria is an upcoming game that is set to revolutionize the online gaming market. And so I highly suggest you check it out, chroniclesofelyria.com. And also consider taking a look at my Patreon page, which is linked below. If you join in on the Patreon, you get all kinds of fun little perks like access to monthly drawings, special private streams, Discord channel where you can chat with me, all that fun stuff. So there's a lot of perks there. Or you can up that way. That's up that side. You can go up there and click the donate bits button. I'm an affiliate now, so you can donate bits or even subscribe to my channel. And I haven't come up with any cool new custom emojis yet for subscribers, but I'm working on it. So stay tuned for that. And otherwise, I'll just see you tomorrow. Take care.